If you want to be able to play songs faster, play in any key at a moment's notice, communicate your musical ideas with other musicians with more ease and more effectively, or just understand how and why songs are put together the way they are, then the Nashville Number system is something you definitely need to know. The idea to shoot this video came up over the weekend. I was doing a session with some good buddies who are also fantastic musicians, and I was really the only one that had a full understanding of how this system works. For this session in particular, I was a part of some of the pre-production where we were working on the arrangements, and since I had my charts, I was tasked with the job of writing charts for everybody. The producer asked me if I could take my number charts and convert them into letters so everyone else in the room could understand them with ease. I did this no problem and it was all good. It worked out totally fine. But throughout the session, there were so many times where I just thought to myself how much easier it could be if we were all speaking the same language. Maybe you've heard of the Nashville Number system before, maybe you understand it a little bit, or maybe you're totally brand new to this idea. I think at the end of this video, you're going to have a sufficient enough understanding of how it works to start to apply it right away. Maybe that's a bit of a bold claim that you'll be able to use it right away after this 6 or 10 minute video, whatever it happens to be, and maybe it sounds a little bit used car salesman-y, so let me preface the rest of this video by saying this. Yes, you'll be able to understand it at the end of this video, but if you really want to be able to speak it and use it fluently like a language, kind of just like the conversation we're having right now, like anything good worth doing, it's going to take you some time, but you can start right now. If you start right now, you're going to be speaking Nashville numbers fluently before you know it. I can tell you from personal experience, this is the one thing I wish I started using sooner. So its name comes from the fact that it's used in Nashville in studios all the time. This is how professional musicians in Nashville chart out songs so that everybody in the room can be on the same page, no matter what instrument they're playing, no matter if the song has to have a key change, no matter if you're using something in a different tuning, everyone's always on the same page. The system was actually developed in the 1950s by a gentleman named Neil Matthews. He developed it as a simplified way to write arrangements out for a vocal group named the Jordanaires, who most notably worked with Elvis Presley. It was adapted and refined over time, including by a gentleman named Charlie McCoy, who was a studio musician, mostly a harmonica player in Nashville that worked with everybody from Bob Dylan to Loretta Lynn. The real beauty of this system is you don't have to have an incredibly in-depth knowledge of music theory to be able to utilize it, nor do you actually have to be able to read music. It really lends itself well to musicians who play by ear because all it is it's giving you the harmonic structure of the song. Unlike the way traditional arrangements are written out with melodies and sheet music, no melodies are present here. It just shows you the chords, it shows you when to change them, and then it leaves the rest up to you. A great middle ground where producers, musicians, and engineers alike can communicate and all be on the same page. So enough history, let's actually talk about how it works. As the name implies, this is a system based on numbers instead of letters. Every letter in a key is assigned a number based on its scale degree. If you understand how major scales work and you understand how key signatures work, that's going to make your life a whole lot easier using the system. Those are two things I think every musician should understand anyways, but if you're one of the people out there who doesn't, don't worry, I've got you covered. Click the link in the description down below for my guide to the most popular guitar keys. It shows you which chords go together in a given key, what the degrees are of each of those chords, and whether they're major, minor, or diminished. It's a really great quick reference tool you can keep in your guitar case or at the front of your music book to reference anytime you need. As a matter of fact, you should go grab it right now and then come back, use the chart to follow along the rest of this video so you can actually see just how useful it is. I'm going to use an example in the key of C because it has no sharps or flats. Since we're in the key of C, whatever the key is going to get number 1. So we're going to assign C to number 1. And if you look at your chart, if C is 1, it gives you the rest of the intervals. So C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7, and then C is 8 again, which is the same as 1. If you refer to your chart, you'll see that laid out nice and easily, and you'll also see which chords are major and minor. If you look down the chart, you'll notice that every time we have a 1 chord, no matter what that is, it's always major. The 2 chord is always minor, 3 chord is always minor, 4 and 5 are major, 6 is minor, 7 is diminished or half diminished, and then 8 is the same as 1 back to major. This never changes. It doesn't matter what key you're in, when you start thinking about chords and numbers instead of letters, the degrees always keep the same chord quality, be it major, minor, or diminished. Don't worry too much about that diminished chord if it's not something you know. We don't see it too often in popular music, and that's something we can cover in a later video. So let's take a look at a simple chord progression in the key of C. chords I played there were C, A minor, F, and G. Now, even up until now, if you've had no idea how key signatures work technically, you've probably noticed that the chords C, A minor, F, and G often go together. If we assign their numbers, we can see how this applies in other keys. So, C is 1, A minor is 6 minor, F is 4, and G is 5. 1, 6 minor, 4, 5 is probably the most popular chord progression of the last couple of decades. If you guys are enjoying the content so far, please consider hitting the like button on this video, commenting down below, or sharing it with your friends. It really helps me to grow the channel so I can reach and help more people. Let's take another popular key and see what it would look like if we use 1, 6 minor, 4, 5, starting somewhere different. As guitar players, we see the key of G used all the time, so that's probably another great place to look. Take a look at your chart and you'll notice when G is 1, C is 4, D is 5, and E minor is 6, or 6 minor. Again, if you don't really understand theory that well, you've probably noticed that G, C, D, and E minor almost always go together. If I wanted to play that exact same chord progression, just starting on G, or in the key of G, instead of starting on C, or in the key of C, here's what it looks like. This is going to be true for every single key. Another popular key might be the key of D. If we want to play 1, 6 minor, 4, 5 in D, here's what it looks like. That covers a lot of what you need to know when it comes to what chords to play using the Nashville Number system. The other part to writing out or reading a Nashville chart, though, is understanding when to change chords. And it's really, really simple. The general rule of thumb is every time you see a chord written, it gets 1 bar. In our case here, we were using 4/4 time. So if I wanted to write out what I just played in a Nashville chart, it would look like this. This is obviously a really straightforward example because everything just got 1 bar. We didn't have any chord changes that happened in the middle of a bar or any chords that lasted any longer than a bar. When we have chords that last 2 bars, for example, all you would have to do is write out the chord twice. Whenever there's a split bar, it needs to be marked somehow. Most commonly, the chords will either be underlined or put in brackets. Now, if we see something like this, where we have a G and an E minor underlined, we're just automatically going to assume that each chord gets half of that bar, or 2 beats. If, for instance, the G got 3 beats and the E minor got 1, you'd need to mark it somehow. The way I like to do it is just by putting little dashes above the bar. The underline lets me know we're dealing with a split bar, and then the dashes above tell me how many beats each of those chords get. Now, we've just used major keys as examples, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, how do you think about minor keys? Does the minor key become the 1? The way that we think about minor keys is we still write them out as if it was the relative major. So if we're actually in the key of E minor, we still want to make sure that that E is like the tonal center of everything, but we're going to write it out in reference to G. We don't want to have to think about 2 different systems, one for major and one for minor, since relative major and minor keys have the same chords anyways. E minor is the same as G. A minor is the same as C. B minor is the same as D. C sharp minor is the same as E, and so on and so forth. The number one reason I think this is so important is that no matter what you're doing, no matter what key you're in, no matter whether you have a capo on, no matter whether you're in an open tuning, any scenario like that, your chart's still going to make sense to you. If I'm playing in an open tuning, my 1-4-5 is still the same as the bass player's 1-4-5. We might just be thinking about them differently. Or what about if I'm using a capo? Let's say, for example, we're playing in the key of G. Sonically, that's what we're hearing, but I'm playing D shapes. I'm thinking D, G, A, B minor, because we learned that's the 1-4-5-6 minor. The rest of the guys could be thinking normally. They could be thinking down G, C, D, and E minor, But I've made the decision to put my capo up here because, you know, I think it's going to sound better, whatever. I don't have to think about anything differently. I don't have to be sitting there going, oh, are we on the D chord? When really it's a G chord, because then everybody gets confused. If I lost you there, don't worry. I've got a video right here explaining how and why you should be using a capo and why it's not actually cheating like some people think. Also, keep an eye down in the description. If you're wanting to learn more about the Nashville Number system, I'm going to be posting a course there in the next couple of weeks. When it does go live, I'll make a quick video about it and I'll post in the YouTube community section. So if you want to know when that comes out, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon so you're notified. I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate your time and attention in such a noisy world. And until next time, take some of this knowledge, go out there and make some music.